So when it comes to storytelling, I think the biggest mistake people actually make is 97% of marketers know zero about marketing. A company's valuation is a number from today multiplied by a story about tomorrow.
On a practical level, what quick tips can you give to people when it comes to telling stories on social media?
Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, LinkedIn. Why are you doing it? We're doing it to get attention, and then we're going to convert them. And it's that second half that everyone misses.
Your model for launching products, services, offers is insane. It's so good. So talk me through that. Why did you start a business with your brother?
Yeah. Business is more about resilience than skill in terms of like, you've got to stay in the game long enough to know how to play it. I called Morgan and I said, I've had this offer. Do you want to do something here? And he went, let's do it. Let's start a business. I just have this aim to change the tax bracket of my family. I don't drink, so I would often get thrown keys on nights out, and I was driving these Jeeps, BMWs and £80,000 trucks, and I was like, what is this life? Wow. Everything I thought about life was just what people around me thought about life. You're still doing ket on a park. I can't be in those environments anymore. Sure. Can I swear?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, it's absolute shit all.
This was a message from you on 18th of May 2023. It says, hello, Niall.
Hello, how's it going, Matt?
It's going good. It's been a long time.
It's been, what did we just say? A year since we last talked?
Yeah, I've actually got the message. I'm going to read it out. It says, this was a message from you on 18th of May 2023. It says, congrats on the pod launch. Love the fact you went so high end with it. Fucking slaps. The visuals, the graphics, the setup. Mwah, magic. We should catch up next time I'm in England. And here you are on the podcast.
Here we are catching up nearly over 12 months later.
I know.
And the world has changed since then. And clearly I was feeling good that day and giving some compliment.
You were. I was shocked.
Yeah, I try not to get tangent already, but people don't mess people enough about being positive. So I've been trying to do it more, even though it's been a year since I sent it. So that's the last one you got.
No, you sent me a relevant message on WhatsApp as well, and I've been wanting to get you on the podcast for a while. I was hoping we'd get you and Morgan. Where is Morgan today?
He's holding the fort down, make sure it doesn't set on fire while I'm away, and it's tough to get Morgan to do much, so you'd be very, very struggle to get him on a podcast. I don't think he's ever accepted a podcast.
I do not. Well, he commented on my LinkedIn post this morning saying he was too busy ironing his socks.
Yeah, that sounds like Morgan.
It sounds like him. But anyway, I just want to get into this because we've got so much to talk about. We've got about an hour. Let's give people a bit of an intro into kind of how we got to know each other. Do you want to kind of tell that story a little?
Yeah, so I was at university at the time, and I was playing around in marketing. I had a couple of freelance clients at the time, and I ended up talking to Sam Winsbury, and I ended up getting a job at Karogo, which was a team of 2 at the time, technically 3.
Yeah.
And I think Ellie Middleton had just left, and I came in, and it was just you, me, and Sam. And it was, I think Sam will admit as well, it was quite chaotic at the time, but I feel like we both learned a lot, and you were exiting virtually as I came in, and that was kind of our first instance. And then ever since, it feels like we've been reasonably intertwined or going on parallel paths. And then you started obviously Yellow Hippo, and I went off and started Ratcliffe Brothers.
Yeah, what was the reason for you to leave that agency job and then start on your own? What was the trigger?
Yeah, so it was, I had a fantastic time at Karogo, and I learned so much, and then Sam is a fantastic business owner and CEO, and he's taught me a lot. But at the time, I was going on LinkedIn, and I was starting to get my own audience, and someone actually offered me virtually my full-time wage to work just for them. One client, I think I was managing about 13 at the time. It was okay, wow, I can manage this one client now for the same wage as all 13. But I wasn't really sure what to do, what a business was, how I'd really properly start one. So I called Morgan and I said, look, Morgan, I've had this offer. Do you want to do something here? And he went, let's do it. Let's start a business. And within about 3 days, we bought the domain, had the website, and I'd handed in my notice, which was very scary at the time because I was kind of ahead of the curve in terms of getting a full-time job. I was virtually just exiting uni. So it all seemed a bit chaotic at the time. But we got the one client, we delivered for them, we got some results, and then we launched the actual business probably 2 months after that. And then it's been, chaotic ever since.
And so how long ago was that? About 2 years?
That was coming on 3 years, maybe just over 3 years now.
Wow, okay. Tell me today what that business looks like. So it started off as you two, buying the domain, setting up a bit of a website, going live. What does it look like today?
Yeah, so it was just me and Morgan back then, and since we're about a team of 14 now, all in-house full-time. We've got about 38 clients on the roster, and doing a substantial amount in revenue. I'd hope to say it's still a small business, but yeah, it's come a long way since then.
Yeah, I mean, what journey? 3 years. That's a lot as well. And how old are you?
I'm 23, just gone 23.
And why did you start a business with your brother? Because I think that's quite interesting to a lot of people. Like they always say, don't mix business with like pleasure and friends and family, and keep the two things separate. Whereas yours is so intertwined. Like how do you find that?
One of the biggest things everyone said to us when we started the business is like, oh, why start with your brother? Don't start with your family. And for us, it's been the best thing we've ever done. Like today, I'm here, I can do the podcast, and Morgan can like hold down the fort and make sure everything's running smoothly. And we do that a lot. So if Morgan ever needs to do anything, I can hold it down as well. But mostly we are able to drive things forward a little bit more because it's my brother. Like a lot of times we'll like argue for like 15 minutes and come to a resolution. So like we'll say, oh, I want to do this, and he says, I'm not sure about that. And we go back and forth, come to a decision and move on. And because we're brothers, we've fought our entire lives. So like a small argument isn't like it's not like I'm falling out with someone. It's like we bicker and then done, and it's very smooth like that. But also I feel like business is a game of trust, and there's no one I can trust more than doing your blood.
Yeah, no, I love that. I think it's also nice to have a soundboard because as a solo founder, I don't have that. So like every decision is kind of like comes back to me. And although like I have a bit of a team, it's a case of like I have to make those final decisions where that risk, but also like the inspiration and ideation, I imagine, comes from both of you equally.
Yeah, and we joke about this, like how does we obviously business is ups and downs.
Yeah.
And we always say like, okay, when we win a huge contract, like what do? You tell your team, and truthfully they don't have the same excitement that you do, or you have a really bad day, and truthfully you can't put that burden on the team. And as like a solo founder, I feel like you just have to absorb that and take it on. For me and Morgan, it's like if there's a great day, there's two of us having a great day, and if it's a bad day, there's two of us having a bad day. And either way, we're kind of winning in that sense where like it can't get that bad. And I think business is more about resilience than skill in terms of like you've got to stay in the game long enough to know how to play it. And for us, I feel like we're able to stay in it potentially for the next 10, 20 years because there's just two of us going at it.
I love that. What is your process with hiring? Like, because you've hired fairly quickly, I'd say, for the time period. So why did you make that first hire, first of all? And how has it spiraled up to 14 now?
yeah. I wish I had like a really like clever hiring strategy. We don't. And it's something Jason Fried, he owns Basecamp, I said in his book, he says, hire when it hurts. And it's something we accidentally embodied.
Yeah.
Because we only actually hire when we're at capacity. So we recently, we're currently going through interviews, which actually is the 14th. So we're technically 13 right now. And when we started to decide to hire them, we were already at capacity in terms of like we couldn't take on one more client. And then we add it. And I always thought that was us being stupid. And I was like, everyone else like plans this out. And like I said, Jason Fried says in his book, he says like only hire when you physically can't keep that capacity for much longer. And for us, that's been a really smooth process of like, we're able to keep a very stable business. Everyone's jobs are secure, and we can really scale. And I'd say we even scale slowly, comparatively. Yeah. Like we very rarely would hire, 2 to 3 people when we don't have people. Like they'll come in and they'll instantly have work to do. But yeah, it just seems to have happened organically so far, at least.
Yeah, such a smart strategy as well. I think like I went the opposite way, where I hired 2 people and kept it at that, and then I capped the growth of the agency instead, rather than bringing more clients, bringing more team. I was like, I'm kind of like satisfied with where I'm at, and I don't need like more for my personal like goals and ambitions. Which is really interesting because we do a very similar thing, but we've taken 2 completely different models. So you have gone down the kind of more like empire agency model, long term.
Yeah.
You're in it for the long game, whereas I'm building the business, but making sure that now, 2.5 years in, that it's sustainable and aligned with kind of what I want to do day to day. Why have you gone the route that you have? What's the kind of thinking behind that?
In terms of the way we've gone about growth, I suppose it's more on like, I'm happy to sacrifice a lot to get where I want to go. And that's probably, I feel like you're like anti-sacrifice and I'm like pro-sacrifice. And there's a lot of things in my life I've had to cut, and Morgan as well, in terms of we have very few friends, if like any, that we see regularly. We're obviously in Porto and right now, and don't see, there's no one there we know. I have a long-term partner, obviously means that I spend less time with her as well. But it's kind of that goal we're going after in terms of like changing everyone's lives around us. I just have this aim to change the tax bracket of my like family and like family name. It weren't like we were like horrifically like brought up. We had great parents, didn't have that much money growing up, and for me it was like always had this goal of just I'm gonna get to the point where no one needs money around me in my life, and it's not just money as well, but it's kind of that empire building of there's something there to go after. And it's also a fun game for me. It's like it's the game I enjoy, and maybe we'll talk about it later, but me and Morgan have a heavy football background, and we played quite a high level of football. And like once the football went, we needed a new game to play. And like for me, scaling the business is that game. Like that's what I get off on. And I always joke with my missus in terms of like she'll be like, what you're working like? It'll be like Friday night. I'll clock off at 6, and like 2 hours later, I'll be like clocking back in. And she's like, "What are you working for?" And it's like it's not work for me. Like if you didn't pay me, I'd still do the exact same job I'm doing for free. If it was like you just get like an allowance.
Yeah, no, that's so interesting. I think, like, especially in the first 2 years, I was the same. Definitely, like, your pro-sacrifice. I think I am in certain contexts, and definitely was for the first 2 years. But now I realise just kind of alignment with my own values and why I want to go long term. Also, you having a co-founder, I think, makes it a lot different as well.
Yeah.
And your mum's part of your team, right?
Yeah.
So it's like a very like family unit, and also the name of your business as well, like the Ratcliffe Brothers. Like it makes complete sense. Like all like congeals together.
Yeah, and it's one of the best things. I feel really good about like. I feel good about paying everyone, but mum in particular, it feels good, and maybe that's a selfish thing as well. But in terms of like, it's just something I've always wanted to do, and now she's currently in Ireland seeing the family, and it's like stuff like that they probably wouldn't be able to do if we weren't paying her as well, which has been fantastic. It's the most pleasurable experience I've had so far in life, I think.
I love that. And you also mentioned like gamification. That is so important. Like I 100% relate. I get really bored very, very easily. So unless I can like gamify the work that I'm doing, the targets that I'm hitting, like the process of doing the work, talk to me about that.
It's almost like this. People mourn about being constantly on, and for me, it's like I live in that being constantly on. I love it, and I'm lost without it. And you can talk about the issues with that. If you sell your company, which I don't plan on doing, but it's like I just enjoy always having something to think about in terms of like me and Morgan will be like on the bus to the gym or going to jiu-jitsu, and like it's all we talk about is the business. Like, okay, we're at this stage, what we're going to do next, what we're going to do next, what we're going to do next, how we're going to grow this. And it's not just like how we're going to grow it, it's like how can we provide a better service for the clients. And like the team in particular, I think we've done such a good job of where like we have such a talented bunch now where like I think any competitor would like pay substantially more for like, our team in terms of like they really want them. And I think they've been demanding the space. But the team's fantastic, and we've spent so much training them and trying to figure out ways to make them work and incentivize them. And I can't even remember the question. It was gamification. But it's just like, it's fun to me. Business is a fun game. Even on the downsides of it, like it's like it's more like conceding a goal in football, not losing your career to me. And even on those down days, it's like, okay, this is a new challenge. That's fun.
Yeah, I definitely like relate to that so much, especially if I don't have anything planned or it's not like in my diary. I get really agitated. Like if I'm just sat there, I can't do it. So I have to either plan stuff intentionally into the schedule. So like at the moment, I'm seeing loads of friends. I'm doing lots of activities, traveling quite a bit. But if I didn't have that, I know I would just go back into the business and just like hustle in that way. Because like you said, it's if you enjoy what you do, it's not work.
Yeah, and do you know how you said you like make time for friends and everything else? Yeah. Like we just cut that out, and then it's just the business.
I respect that. I respect the honesty.
In a nice way. Like I still like talk to people like, and I still do like dinners and stuff like that. But like, there's like me, Morgan, my missus, and that's virtually it. And then we like obviously come and see family.
Yeah, I think that's like so refreshing that you're so honest about it, because people, I know, do make those types of sacrifices, but will kind of not really take ownership of it, and it's like, oh, like this person's like not on my level, so I don't want to speak to them. Whereas you're just so focused on your own goals, so anything that helps you get there, that's where you're moving towards. Yeah,
and there's nothing against. I love the way you approach things, and I love the way other people approach things, and it's just a case of like, I've never been mean to anyone. I never like. I'm gonna be clear. We don't like. Yeah, I'm gonna cut this person out of my life today. Like, we moved from America, so we never really had friends in the country. Then we moved to Portugal, and moving like you don't really have like long-term friendships like that. But yeah, it's like we never mean to people and like cut them out. It's just more like we just organise our lives with the business first.
Around work, love that. In terms of like the movement, talk to me about that, because you set up your business. Actually, where are you from in the UK? Whereabouts?
I'm from near Burnley.
Okay, but then you moved to America for
University,
right? And then set up your business there. Why did you stay there? Like, for a while post uni?
Yeah. You know, I think one of the biggest things all kids should be advised to do is get out of their hometown, and it's like the biggest thing that changed me. And up until 18, I was quite a soft kid in terms of like, I hate to do a football analogy, but like I didn't play aggressively. I was like quite soft. I like thought I could like pass the ball and be technical. And then at 18, I moved out of the country, and it was like my whole persona changed. I went to America, and thankfully I went to school with Morgan for the first 2 years, and then I moved to Iowa after that. And just like I got out of it, and I like realized, wow, everything I thought about life was just what people around me thought about life. And then I got to America, and like one of our best friends there, his dad's a litigation lawyer in Florida, and he has like this big multi-million-pound house. He was driving a BMW, and he was just like an 18-year-old kid, and I was like, what, this is... I had a Citroen C1, and like people would be like, "Wow, you have a car," and I got to America, and it was like, "Oh, you don't have a car," and it was like this complete opposite. And I don't drink, so I would often get like thrown keys on nights out, and I was like driving these Jeeps, BMWs, and like 80,000 pound trucks, and I was like, "What is this life? Like, there's more to do. There's more to life." Yeah. And ever since then, I've kind of been addicted to just trying new places. I'm not a big traveler. I'm more of like a liver. Yeah, like I'll do like 3 to 6 months minimum.
Yeah.
So we did America. I did 2 years in Hartsville, South Carolina. Then I went to Iowa, which I wouldn't recommend, but was again a molding experience. Can I swear?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, it's absolute shithole. Like the middle of America, other than Texas, like fucking avoid at all costs. It's a shithole. We're freezing. It's like north of the country. Anyway. Good molding experience. And then my girlfriend's American, so then I moved to Charleston with her. Did about a year there, and then visa was essentially running out in America. So that's when we moved back to the UK, and it was when we moved to the UK, it was almost like we're back in this place, and like we've changed as people, and no one else has changed. And that was where a lot of the friendships kind of ended in terms of like we got back to the UK, and we often had like UK friends, and then it's like, okay, we're trying to work here, and like you're still doing Ket on a park, and it's like I can't be in those environments anymore. Sure. So it's like, okay, we have to change things up, and that's when we were like, okay, let's move, and we have no idea where to, and we actually created a spreadsheet, and we took into account like time zone, because we had 1 employee at this point, or maybe 2, and we were like time zone, temperature, cost of living, like ease of getting a visa, and we narrowed it down bit by bit, and we had like 10, and then 8, and then we got down to 2, and it was Cape Town, South Africa, or Porto, Portugal, and we said, okay, let's book a flight to Porto, it's the closest. Yeah. And we literally got there, did 7 days. In that 7 days, got a lease, started to do residency there, and then we've been there for 2 years now, just over 2 years, I think.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I love that you said temperature was on there.
Yeah.
Like, it's so important.
It is. Like, we always joke that, like, when we come back to the UK, we'll always smash vitamin D, because, like, you have, like, and we used to say in America, we used to, like, come back in summer, and it'd be, like, you'd feel, like, depressed. You'd be like, why am I miserable in England? And we were, like, in a very hot climate, South Carolina, and it was, like, it's England, it's grey. Like, it's tough to be happy. And saying that we're now moving back in January, so I'll be stuck on my vitamin D. But I do think sun is so important, and it's just like you wake up. I think Andrew Wilkinson, who owns Tiny, one of the things he said is that the most priceless thing you can buy is a view. And he just says, like, he has this house on this lake, and we have a house on the river, an apartment on the river, and it's like you wake up every day, and it's like you have the same view, and it doesn't change. It's sunny, and like your mood can slowly just uplift from that, versus being like, oh, it's grey and rainy, like I don't want to leave the house again.
Yeah, 100%. I really resonate with that completely. And also, I think the mindset shift is so different. So in like the UK, if you try something new, it's like, that's a bit weird. Why is it doing that? You go to the US or just internationally, and it's like you get a pat on the back. And it's like, good on you, like congrats on trying something. Even if you fail, then the kind of sentiment towards that is completely different. I think in the UK it's like, oh you failed, isn't that embarrassing? Not in like the US, especially in my experience with clients, like it's just celebrated to be more bold and like make your own kind of living and make your own way and kind of fuck the system a little bit?
Yeah, I think we have like tall poppy syndrome in the UK, and I actually think it was great growing up because you get humbled a lot.
Yeah, yeah.
But then it comes to a point where it's like, okay, like, are we just all gonna cut each other down forever? Like, do we all just want to stay like in the same situation or not? And then, like you said, you're America, like, and you probably see it with clients as well. Like, I don't want to call out English clients. We love our English clients, but like the Americans are always willing to like pay more, pay on more on time. Much more happy to like expand services, and then like generally UK mindset is very conservative in all those aspects.
Yeah, 100%. Talk to me about your service, like what you guys sell, and then I want to get into like tips and guidance for other people based on your expertise, because you've got a ton of it. So what are your kind of core offers?
Yeah, so we're a B2B marketing agency, and essentially we tell brands for the biggest B2B brands on the planet, and the main kind of outcome we provide is standing out through story. And what that looks like is a lot of storytelling through company story, the founder story, or an executive team. And then on the back end, we have a system of lead magnets, resources, and emails, where essentially they're not just telling stories to get attention, but they're actually driving new business or recruitment or whatever their outcome is for that.
Yeah, for sure. And with the storytelling aspect, why was that so important within your business? Why does it all congeal around storytelling?
Yeah, my favorite quote probably I've read in the last few years is Morgan Housel, and he says that a company's valuation is a number from today multiplied by a story about tomorrow. And I love it. And the one thing he says in his book as well, he says the best story wins when it comes to business. And for me, it's like everything trickles down from attention. And I know that stories are the most like engaging thing for humans to read, but also they remember it more than anything else. Like, we're naturally inclined, like you tell someone a story about, oh, there's a lion in the jungle, it's to survive. So you remember, oh, there's a lion in the jungle, I'm not going to go in there.
Yeah.
And it's the same, like, even if it's like, it sounds silly, but if you're posting on LinkedIn a story, like, people will remember the story over yourself. And by doing that, we can get that attention and get the people to actually remember them. And we always say as well is like, your credibility comes from everything you've done so far in life. So like, if you're not talking about the things you've done and telling those stories, you have no credibility, you won't get that attention, but you also won't get remembered. And it all kind of trickles down from that story.
Do you guys have like a model or framework that you approach storytelling with? Because storytelling for some people is just like a bit of a wishy-washy, flowery, big words, right? So how do you guys actually implement that in terms of content, in terms of marketing, branding?
So when it comes to storytelling, I think the biggest mistake people actually make is they think that telling stories is like writing events down. So like, it's like me saying, okay, I'm gonna tell you a story. I got in my car this morning, I drove here, parked up, parking rejected my Amex, I had to go to a new car park, I walked here and came in and we started a podcast. That's not storytelling. That's like just a recounting events. Like, it's not a story. So there's two things I would really focus on. And the first thing is like thinking of a point first and thinking of a story to go with it. And this is what a lot of businesses get the error of, in terms of like, okay, what's the point I want to make? So let's say I want to say that actually storytelling is the best approach to marketing. What I would do from that is I would find a place where I wasn't telling stories back in the day. So I'm posting on LinkedIn, I'm just sharing stats and figures about the business, and that's not resonating. And then I would just contrast that with a time we were telling stories and being successful. And that's the story I'd tell, of how I wasn't telling stories and I wasn't getting results, to being there, telling stories and getting results. And it's that having that point first and then directing the story. And something Matthew Dix says, who writes Story Worthy, is like, you should look for a 5-second moment, which is like usually like a realization. So like, for me, in that moment, it would be the realization that storytelling is the way forward when it comes to B2B marketing. And then work back from that. It's not just like telling the events that happened. It's actually driving that point with that 5-second moment.
Yeah, so good. I mean, when it comes to like LinkedIn content in particular, we obviously, as an agency as well, tell a lot of stories, and it's the most effective way to grip attention. I always say, like, a social media post is never designed to convert sales, because if somebody with no audience, no engagement, no story posts a sales post on LinkedIn, that's not going to convert. What will convert, if they've built a story arc that people remember, that stuck in their mind, so people associate this person with this story, this transformation, their brand is sticky around certain themes within that industry. And then you do that sales post, and then it slaps, and then you make cash because you've told stories for years of doing it. So on a practical level, what kind of quick tips can you give to people when it comes to telling stories on social media?
Yeah, so one of my favourite things, I think I've stolen this from Aaron Sorkin, who misquoting it. I think he's the director. It was the director of the Mark Zuckerberg film. I think it's called The Social Network.
Yeah.
And he said, I think his quote was like, "I worship at the altar of intention and obstacle." And that's something I always think. So one of the key stories, if I'm looking to tell a story, I'll try and find an intention I've had, an obstacle that got in my way, and that's the first way to make it interesting. So I want to have success in business, but my marketing wasn't working. Obviously, the intention, I want to have success, obstacle wasn't working. It just wasn't performing. And then I can add in, then I started telling stories and the results came. The easiest thing. But the second thing I would say is like conflict. And it all comes down to conflict or contrast, however you want to put it. And that's simply like, can you just contrast one positive with a negative? That could be like everyone believes X, but actually Y. Or it could be Shoaib loves to put himself first and have friends, but I actually have 0 friends. And that's an approach contrast.
Yeah.
Or you can do like a competitors in terms of like trying not to name it. So let's say Sony do this with their TVs, but this is why we do things differently.
Yeah.
And that's the simplest thing. And then, like, you can virtually feel LinkedIn hooks as I say it. Like, if you just contrast the X versus Y and juxtapose the first 2 lines, like, especially with LinkedIn in particular, like, that contrast is, like, the easiest way to set up a story as well. And I always do these, like, story openers, like carousels, and, like, share some of our best story openers. And 99% of the time, it's that contrast of, like, here's a negative, here's a positive, or here's one approach, here's another, here's how a competitor approaches things, here's how we do it.
Yeah, we do the exact same thing, but it kind of has a different name, really. So we focus on like transformational hooks.
Yeah.
So there's actually some data that we've collected as an agency, which I'll share on.
Go on.
So we analysed like 500 of our top performing posts over 11,000 LinkedIn posts. That is top 500, typically above 500 likes minimum, reaches about 70k. Now the top 500, it was a crazy stat. About 93% of them had a hook that had a transformation. 93% of the top 500 LinkedIn posts. What I mean by transformation is you're setting up a story in the first 1.5 lines. So you've got a reference point, which is usually like a date or a number. 6 months ago, I was this. This is usually something like negative, not aspirational, or something that agitates pain points for your customer in a way that they're feeling at present day. The next thing would be, okay, but today or now I'm this, and that this is then aspirational, right?
Yeah.
So you've not only created that contrast, as you've said, you've created a reference point, so it's kind of setting up the story, people know what to expect, but you've also made people feel like emotionally compelled to read it because it's either an underdog story, they admire that transformation, or it's something that they want to achieve in their world. So exactly what you said, our data just 100%.
And what I think people overlook is that you said the date at the start, and we call them signposts, like in 2013, 6 years ago, and like it's such an overlooked thing. And like sometimes I look through my content, I'm like, oh, I'm not going to use a signpost because I use them too much. But like people's stories are often so confusing because they don't just like signpost it. Like this was in 2013, now we're in 2016. This is today. Yeah. And like I always remember you had one of a really early viral posts. It was like 3 years ago, 2 years, 1 game. It was just like a timeline.
Yeah.
And like it has, ironically, it was like I think about a 7-line post.
Yeah.
And it had like everything of like a really simple story with signposts, contrast, that transformation that you talked about. And people do really forget like those little like in 2016 there's a reason people use them, and it's just so effective in terms of like giving people a timeline to actually follow. Yeah,
it's like when you are growing up, you get told stories, once upon a time.
Yeah.
You've got the context,
exactly.
You've got the setting up of a story, so it actually feels like you're not getting sold to. And that's the most effective way to sell, is through storytelling, right?
100%. And, we always say, tell these like relatable stories, we call them. And like you talked about like sales posts, and one thing I do to sell essentially in my content is just like, I'll tell a time when I was in a relatable situation to my target audience, and then here I am. And I would joke about like Iman Gadzi. It's like huge, and it's like he almost like it's like role model marketing of like you want to be me, and a lot of like coach salespeople do it. But I think in like the B2B world, it works as well in just like talking about the business. Like here's where your business is right now, and that's actually where I was, and here's where I am today, and that's where your business wants to be. Like you're selling that transformation, and just using like those relatable things. Like okay, they're gonna be there right now who we want to talk to. I'm going to talk about a time when I was there. and then where we are.
I think exactly what you said. We have like another thing to add to that is what we call the gap. We have a very distinct gap, and that gap is what makes the post aspirational, right? So the things that you've done, or the secrets you have, or the methods, techniques, data that you've accumulated, that's what people want. They're struggling to get to the end point, and you provide that gap. You fill the gap essentially.
Yeah, and that's the simplest thing. And I think that so many people forget that like they try and sell like I need to sign clients. I'm gonna put a sales post out on LinkedIn, and that's like the opposite. And I think it's Dave Trott who says like it should all start with impact, communication, persuasion. He says like 9% of marketers focus on persuasion, like come and buy from me. And like the first thing you should be doing is like, can I get like attention through a story?
Yeah.
And then communicate what you do, and then persuade them at the end. Rather than everyone else is like, okay, I'm gonna sell today. Like no.
Yeah.
Like tell a story, get their attention, and then push them to go and purchase.
For sure. I think there's a space to sell, but only when you've got the credibility through stories. So I've tried it recently where I have told stories for about 3 years now on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Founder stories about my journey, my life, setting up the business, client wins, client failures, just like everything has been storytelling.
Yeah.
And then in the last 2 months, I've kind of started coaching other people to build brand on LinkedIn. And I thought I'm going to very explicitly put some sales posts out, which I don't, very rarely do. And there was no real story to it. It was just like, okay, I've got 2 slots left for this offer. This is what you're going to get. Bang, 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 bang. Social proof. And then a call to action that leverages scarcity and urgency, right? All of those posts that I've done, maybe 4 now, within kind of an hour, for all the slots fully booked.
I always see you do the update, like sold out. Sorry, guys.
Invoices paid same day. But if I hadn't sold those stories or told the stories at the beginning, wouldn't work. So I think for somebody who's maybe just starting out or is trying to market more successfully their business, tell stories, do it now. So in 6 months, a year, 2 years time, you have the capacity to just sell outright. So many people make the mistake of waiting, saying, I don't really have the budget for that yet, so I'll do it in a year, or it's just not priority right now. But like you're missing out on a full year's worth of growth. That storytelling has to be the prerequisite for sales. Would you agree?
Yeah, and I think something you said there was like, you talked about like, if you're getting started, tell stories. And one of the biggest things I always think is like, it's almost more applicable to those at the end of like, we have so many clients who are like CEO who's been running a business for like 30 years.
Yeah.
It's like, those are the people, and it's like, you have 30 years of stories here. Like, it's this amazing journey you've gone on, and no one knows it. Like, you're trying to market your business being like, let's say, for you, for example, let's just group into like a marketing agency category. Yeah. Let's say there's another marketing agency been around 30 years and essentially like have 30 years more experience than we do. And it's like, they're now competing with you, who everyone knows, and they have that 30 years of stories and experience, and they're like, they're sitting on them. And it's like, those are the ones that almost need to like shook and be like, guys, you have this amazing story here. Like, why aren't you telling it? And we recently took on a Paralympic gold medalist and a world record holder, and he like wasn't sharing this story. And it was like he'd gone from, it's like he'd lost his arm in a car crash, and now he's a keynote speaker and he does corporate training. And it was like, you are a Paralympic gold medalist. You were in like the 1% of 1%, and like you're competing. And like we have another keynote speaker client. And I was like, they get paid like double what you're getting paid right now, and don't have the same story. Like they're just like going more modern and younger with their approach. And ever since, like, he's been absolutely flying. It's just like people just forget that their stories are worth listening to.
100%. And also like the value of your brand or your business just 100% depends on the quality and how compelling the stories you tell are, especially in like today's climate with social marketing. People relate obviously to people. We have like the whole human to human marketing. Like just I completely agree with everything.
It goes back to that quote. Morgan Housley said that the company valuation is a number from today multiplied by a story about tomorrow. And I was thinking like Tesla. I'm not a huge finance guy, so bear with me, but like Tesla's valuation is like 10x what that company's actually like technically worth on numbers. It's like, why is Tesla worth and it could be like 20x, I don't know the real number, but it's so much overvalued technically speaking. Why? Because there's this story Tesla tell of like this whole self-driving world and how like Tesla's going to do all these things and there's going to be charging stations. It's just this big story they tell, like the world's changing, we've got to go EV, and like that's why they're 10x valued over like Ford or like that company that has those 30 years of experience.
For sure. As outside of storytelling on LinkedIn or social media, how do you then put that storytelling into a wider sales funnel? So how do you guys do that?
Yeah, so one thing we kind of overlooked is like the positioning, and I think it was Winsbury who said like, he'll love this, that people don't have a content problem, it's a positioning problem, like 9% of the time. I think that's a huge thing. And one thing we do is like integrate that storytelling throughout positioning to start with, and we call it guide positioning. So a lot of people will say like, we do X for Y, and another thing we start with is helping them to be like, for us, it's stand out through story. You don't say, like, I like to say on like a podcast, I'd say like we tell stories for like the biggest B2B brands, but the headline on your website has to be like stand out through story. It's the outcome you're providing. That's where the kind of the top of it all starts. And then we go through that, like I said, it all trickles down from attention. So once you can get that attention on LinkedIn, it's like, okay, who wants to buy from us? Who is actually just someone supporting us, and who is someone who's wanting to buy from us? And that's the biggest misstep, is this bridge where they don't have it. So essentially what we do is tie another story into them with a lead magnet. So, for example, I don't think Paul will mind. So we're working with a keynote speaker. Just launched Football Business Speakers as well. Ex-Premier League footballer Paul McVeigh. And he's been blown up on LinkedIn. And I think we got about 1.8 million impressions in the first, I think it was 30 or 60 days. But it has to have, okay, who's interested now in the services I provide? So we released this teamwork masterclass for him, which was a simple PDF guide breaking down one of his key formulas in terms of building a team. And essentially you put that out to the audience and say, hi guys, we put a story with it. So it was like, he scored a Premier League goal against Man United, and one of the biggest lessons he learned that day was about how to build a team. If you want this team masterclass, come and download here. And essentially just garnering interest. Like, who's going to put their hand up now? Who's going to actually be interested in our services? And it was like, I think 300 people downloaded it in the first day. And it's like, okay, 300 people just put their hand up and said, I'm interested in what you do for work. And then off the back end, we can target those people with the emails and the sequences that we do. And that's kind of the second step of the funnel that most people miss. It's like, we were talking with Don McGregor the other day from Social Chain, and he was like, people just like are jumping on like the LinkedIn bandwagon, and they don't know why they're posting. They're just like, LinkedIn seems like it's a thing we should do, like let's post. And that's what most businesses do. It's like they've got an Instagram, a TikTok. And I always laugh at, you always see like a TikTok channel, and it's like the intern is like running around after the boss, and you're like, well, great, yeah, good luck with that. That's gonna get an ROI. Like Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, LinkedIn, and like, why are you doing it? And that second step of like, we're doing it to get attention, then we're gonna garner interest, and then we're gonna convert them. And it's that second half that everyone misses.
Yeah, no, I've had this with previous clients where the traffic we're generating is mega. Like one of our clients actually, I think it was in 6 months, we got about 15 million impressions on their content, and like
Disgusting.
I know, disgusting. 20,000 like extra followers, and in the last 90 days, their profile has been viewed 50,000 times, over 50,000 times, right? And I'm there like, we need to create your lead magnet. You need a landing page. And they didn't even have a landing page. They had like the website, and she was like, the website's kind of a bit outdated. Like, I'm not really sure what you're doing. And I'm like, all this effort that we're generating, these are potential customers. This is thousands and thousands of pounds that you're missing out on because you don't have somewhere to drive that traffic to. So that's really important. You guys do it very effectively with lead magnets. Yeah. Talk to me about your process with A, lead magnets, and B, launches. Because your model for launching products, services, offers is like insane. It's so good. So talk me through that.
Yeah, let's start with the lead magnets. And I think the simple thing with the lead magnet is like, okay, what's an outcome they want? And then just working back from that. So for Paul, for example, we're looking at like, okay, what are the people in his network looking for? Okay, well, yeah, he talks about like world-class performance, and yeah, they want to perform, but he really wants to target high-level people. So what are the issues they're moaning to their spouse about? It's like, okay, well, the team's not effective. The team's not working together. It just doesn't seem like we've hired these people and put them in these positions, but they're not working as a team. Okay, what does Paul have that they need? Well, Paul has operated in world-class teams. He's played against Man United, Chelsea, Alex Ferguson's Man United. He's like, okay, well, Paul has what they want. And then simply we just craft an offer around that. And people like often launch lead magnets as like this like resource that's useless. And for us, it's like, well, what's the most valuable thing we can give away? And like I said, work back from that. And that's why you have the teamwork masterclass. And you talked about, like, you called it the gap, which I quite liked. And it's like, we filled that gap for everyone else. Like, they have an ineffective team. They see Paul as his authority. When it comes to teams, okay, well, here's a resource that's going to bridge that gap and give them that authority. Then it comes to launches, because it's all well and good crafting a great offer, but if no one sees it, then it doesn't matter. And the simple thing I think it was Chris Donnelly who first said it, like, it all trickles down from attention. Like, if you can't get attention on this whatever it is, nothing matters. Your offer doesn't matter, nothing else matters. So we eventually look at it and be like, okay, how can we get the most attention possible? So in the first probably 8 to 10 days pre-launch, we'll be very focused on like high impressions on posts and actually like teasing it. So a lot of times we'll like tease it in the comments, tease it in the post. With us, we'll often do whatever we can basically to get attention, whether that's like a jokey launch or whatever else we do. And then when it comes up to the day, obviously we hit it. But what people don't understand as well is the actual sign-ups don't come they very, very rarely come on day one.
Yeah.
They actually come in like the 2 weeks after, and that's still the launch campaign. So often people will do like a week launch, done. And it's actually like celebrating that success of the campaign, which is also a huge part of like the launch as well. So like, for example, we talked about your guide earlier. So like people who don't know, Shoaib launched this guide probably like month one of being a freelancer, and you got 1,500 downloads, and it was fantastic. And one of the reasons it got so many downloads is because it got so many downloads. Like, it gets 1,000 downloads. Yes. Hi, guys. Everyone, so buzzing. I've got 1,000 downloads. So another 500 people download it. Yeah. Oh, my God, we've now got 1,500 downloads. So another 500 people download it. And just like, it's like FOMO. It's like that post-launch FOMO, which is still the launch. And that's probably the biggest missed opportunity in terms of launches. That people like launch for a week, done. And it's like, okay, that's done. What's the next launch? It's like, no. Like, you've probably got 10% of the sign-ups day one. Yeah. It's actually that 2 weeks after where the rest will come. And it's your job to keep promoting it after. God, this is amazing. I can't believe we got this many people. It's been fantastic. Some reviews, social proof and all that stuff after the launch. And for us, just doing that exact thing that I've actually outlined, we now hit like 2,000 plus downloads for everything we've launched recently.
Yeah, and I think also with what you're saying is social proof. And so if you launch a product, say, a resource, what you want to do is make sure everyone else who hasn't yet downloaded it can see why everybody else has downloaded it and the benefits that they're getting from it. So testimonials, like ask people for testimonials, even if it's a free resource and they've just like read it, ask them for a line, a quote, a video, compile those into like a show reel, put the testimonials together, quantify, how many people are opening it, how many people are reopening that lead magnet and the value that they're getting. That is essentially the marketing of your product. So you do the initial launch, your customers, readers, they are your next kind of generation of marketers beyond that point. Yeah. So
and one hack we have for this is that like we'll always pre-launch to a select group. Like, we like to have like 8 to 10 like social proof on the landing page when it first goes live. And the easy way to do that is like, okay, who am I targeting? Okay, these people, I'm just gonna find them and be like, hi, I'm launching this. I'd really love your feedback. Could you just give it me? Send them it pre-launch, and we always have social proof on our landing pages before it's ever launched. And then as it launches, the more social proof comes in, just add it. You can't have enough of it. But people forget that as well. It's like, oh, I don't have any social proof. Like, send it anyone. Like, send it your mum. Like, put like mum. It even adds to the humour side of it. Like, just have anyone there saying it's good, because otherwise there's no reason to download it. It's that FOMO that people need. Yeah,
for sure. When it comes to, like, if you were to break down launches to somebody who's never launched anything before, right? And you want to give them some very quick actionable tips to launch a product on LinkedIn, what would you say? What are the kind of 2-3 main key points you want to get across?
Yeah, so the first thing is like focus on it actually being a desirable outcome. People forget the offer. It's like you can't launch a business without a good offer. Yeah. You can't launch a product, resource, whatever it is, without a good offer either. The second thing is just like tease for at least 7 days. And what I mean by a tease is like that could be one line in your LinkedIn post, got something coming, and then release the day and like slowly drip feed it in. So it's coming out on this day, or it's going to be on this topic. We spend X amount of hours doing this, and just really build it up that like you've invested time into this and this is going to be valuable. On the launch day, I would try your best to write a banging piece. But generally speaking, just say you're launching something. A lot of people will forget that they're like, 99% of people will read like the hook and just like comment or like engage and like the move past. So like, just put it in the hook. Today is the day. We are launching today. And that's another thing that people overlook is like actually getting people to understand they're launching. No one's seen the teasers. Like, even if you think everyone's seen the teasers, not enough people have seen the teasers. So actually say you're launching on the day. And then secondly, spend like 2 weeks after it just celebrating the launch. If 5 people downloaded it, absolutely buzzing that we've had people downloading so far. Here's the link. If one does it, do the same thing. Yeah. Then click that social proof. You shouldn't have 5 downloads. You should send it to at least 5 people yourself. I say like 8 to 10. Get that social proof, add it to the website. Also, I'd just like to say test it. Like, a lot of times, you're not gonna nail it first try, and like we just like stumbled upon things that work and like terminology that works and the way we can do launches. It's like, don't be disheartened if you don't get it, but don't spend too much time on the resource either. Like launch it. I think Jason Fried says launch like a half product and just get it to where it can be. Like, don't have a fancy landing page. Just have like the simplest one you can have, and then optimize after, and have the simplest lead magnet you can have, then optimize it afterwards. But generally speaking, like I said, have the offer right. 7 days of teasers. Actually say you're launching on launch day, then have 2 weeks of celebrating the launch and keep plugging it. And like those 4 things, I think, are like as basic as I could get it.
So good, so good. I'm gonna use those tips next time I launch something. I've been saying I'm gonna like launch.
You launched the guide. It was, I said earlier, it was like one of the best things you ever did. You didn't launch one since.
Don't drag me.
You didn't launch one since.
I know. I launched it, kind of set the business up, and then it just went into chaos mode, and then I was like, retain clients.
The key thing, like, it set the business. Like, how many? Like, you must have got so many leads from it, and everyone else does. Like, we always say to clients, like, you literally, like I said, Paul got 1.8 million 8 million impressions. Who's interested? Yeah, I think he was getting like 11 to 12 inquiries a month just for the impressions. Great, but like, actually, there could be like, for him, 500,000 of revenue just sat there, wanting to be offered something. And that's where the lead magnets come in.
100%. I will get one done. That's okay. I'll shake on it that start of next year I'll have launched something.
That's 6 months. That's 6 months. I could be dead in 6 months.
I bloody hope not. Okay, we've got like 7-8 minutes left, but I just want to go through the kind of sports side of stuff.
Yeah.
Because you and Morgan are absolute machines when it comes to sports, fitness, and I think it is a trend that I'm definitely seeing with entrepreneurs, and I'm kind of going through a similar journey, not as intense as you guys, but like fitness, health, optimizing kind of mental and physical well-being with success in business. Why is that so important to you? Why are you guys so like fixated on physical and mental fitness?
I think Morgan's like more fitness oriented than I am in terms of like Morgan's like crazy about like he like can't go a day without like working out, and he's working out twice a day at the minute. He goes down at lunchtime, he runs down to these bars near the river, and it's probably like a mile and a half at lunchtime. He'll do like 50 pull-ups, like 100 press-ups, and this like circuit, and comes back, and then we work out together at night. But I think it comes from that football background of like, I don't know how I would word this, but like I also don't think it's a positive. Like I'd say like a lot of people, it's positive for me, but like if I haven't worked out today. Yesterday I hadn't worked out for most of the day. I went to UFC Manchester, full contest, on Saturday. And it finished at like 6 a.m, which was horrific time-wise, but like we really wanted to go. So we got back into the house like 8 a.m. So we woke up at like 2 yesterday. And I was literally like, I have to do something today. And my body physically couldn't like put in a good workout. So I like went in the garage at home and like did like a small circuit. And for like us, I think just because we've done it for so long, I can't go a day without doing it. But also it's like, it's the easiest way to do something and like process thoughts for me as well. Like in terms of like I can be in the gym and like lifting weights, and I'm like, because I'm not on my phone or doing anything, and no one can like contact me virtually, even though the phone's like blowing up. I do it still on the phone. Like it just gives me a sense. Okay, I'm gonna process it. And me and Morgan will often just like go back and forth and talk about business. But, like I don't think, as much as I'd love to have like this. Oh yeah, keep myself healthy to like optimize for work. It's much more of like I have to do it. But I think there's a reason that a lot of athletes do go into be successful business owners. And it's like because you can't physically operate on the hours and schedule we have without optimizing your health. And just thankfully for us, we had it already optimized going into it. And that's meant that we can like go and me and you probably disagree on this about burnout. But like me and Morgan are very like anti-burnout in terms of like I'm not gonna. And people who've like really burnt out would probably disagree, but like I'm not gonna let myself burn out, and like that's part of it in terms of like the gym and like eating really well, and like I'm not gonna eat McDonald's because like I'm not gonna let myself burn out. I'm gonna go 24/7 and keep going.
Yeah, 100%. I'd agree with you on that. 90% of people I think can avoid burnout.
Yeah.
If they make better choices day to day.
Agreed.
And sometimes it's more difficult. I think like speaking about friends who are like neurodiverse, for example, it's harder because they have to find workarounds for that. The world's not set up for them to work in that way. But yeah, like for me, if I don't go to the gym, I get really aggy, I get agitated. I have to get like now I'm going like 5 times a week because if I don't like actually go, my mood is so bad.
That's me.
I'm like, I'm awful.
Just a bad person. Yeah, I can't do it, and it really depends. Like we try and mix it up. In terms of like we could do jiu-jitsu in the gym, but like I have to do something every day.
Definitely. I think if anyone is in that process of business building, it's very easy to slip into the like very toxic way of working where you just stare at a screen for like 16, 18 hours a day, eat really unhealthily, but then you will burn out, you will crash.
Yeah, 100%.
Because you're not taking care of your body, the mind, and you're not really detaching so you can process things, as 100%. You said. Okay, moving on. Quickly before we end, I want to ask if you've got anything you want to promote, where can people check you out?
Obviously, the website, ratcliffebrothers.com, LinkedIn, Ratcliffe Brothers. I also have a newsletter. One of the biggest things I credit for getting good at marketing, or at least as good as I am right now, is I study history's greatest marketers. Every weekend, every Saturday, I spend 3 to 4 hours breaking down one of history's greatest marketers, the lessons I've learned from them, and then I send it to about 3,500 people on Sundays, and that is www.going-viral.com. Just go to my LinkedIn. Growing-viral.com. Yeah. But it's in my LinkedIn. Just go there.
We'll put it in the show notes for the episode.
Yeah.
And then final question, because I ask every guest that we have on, what is an unpopular opinion that you hold that potentially one day could get you cancelled, or the majority of people might disagree with?
You told me this beforehand, and I didn't spend enough time thinking about it. But I think that it's probably not that controversial nowadays. But I actually think that like 97% of marketing is a complete waste of money, and I think 97% of marketers know like zero about marketing. And how do I word this? We interview a lot of marketers, and we've interviewed people from great brands with great CVs, great resumes, and we do a test on the second round of the interview, and it's like essentially like positioning a resource is what we've done recently, and it's so clear how little people know about marketing. And we're not gonna get into the whole like uni marketing debate now.
Yeah.
But I just think that like people don't understand what marketing even is, and they don't understand how brutal it is. Everyone wants the fluffy, like, oh, I've created this nice Instagram reel or like this TikTok, and great, and that is a skill set. But the real key is actually like, can you get someone to take action? And 90% of marketing agencies, marketers, or anyone like that simply can't do that. And that's probably as controversial as I can get.
Love it. Thank you so much, Niall, for coming onto the podcast.
I appreciate it, Matt.